Hello, everyone. Welcome to the weekly live stream where I, Rosa Román, share my book, Losing Sight of the Shore, How to Live on a Boat Without Killing Your Family. I wrote this book a few years ago after we moved off the sailing catamaran, the Dawn Treader. We've lived on two separate boats. The Hakuna Matata was our first boat that we lived on when my daughters were 2 and 4, and Samuel, who is this little guy, didn't even exist. We always have had a German Shepherd on our boats. The first one was Tova, the second one is Nala, and Nala grew up on the boat. So these adventures are mostly about the Dawn Treader, our second boat, which we finished in middle of 2021, that adventure. And I'm really excited because it looks like we might have another, not sailing, but cruising adventure on the horizon. So as we continue reading these chapters, I will share more as that develops, but I don't want to jinx it. So for now, I'm just going to read my weekly chapter of Losing Sight of the Shore. Last week, we talked about Shabbat shots, which I had a lot of fun reading. And this week, the subject is marine toilets, which nobody has fun thinking about ever. So without further ado, this is Losing Sight of the Shore, How to Live on a Boat Without Killing Your Family, Chapter 12, Marine Toilets. Unless you are Steven Spielberg or someone like that with multiple full-time crew members on board, chances are good that at some point after you fall in love with your perfect vessel and move aboard, you will have boat envy. You will see a mega yacht hanging out in the deeper part of the anchorage where you're riding out a storm, and you'll wonder what it might be like to live like that. It may be when you are lugging your 3 kids and your laundry to shore in the rain in an unreliable dinghy, while one of their paid crew members speeds by in the tender with the center console, kicking up enough wake to toss you about like a toy boat, that you might think, man, I bet they think their poop doesn't stink. But the fact is, it does. After living on a boat for any length of time, you quickly learn that boat problems are boat problems, regardless of the size of the ship. And the boat problem that trumps almost all other boat problems is the toilet. Everyone hates marine toilets, and there is nothing more equalizing or humbling than sewage issues. Ask any person who has ever pursued their dream of living on the water, and you will find that they will have a story about toilet trouble. True, on those mega yachts, they probably pay someone else to handle those problems, but they still affect everyone on board, no matter their pedigree. The first time I realized what a headache marine toilets can be was early on in our time on Hakuna Matata. Another cruising family came over to visit so that their kids could play with our kids. The moment my friend stepped foot inside, an amazed look came over her face. "What's wrong?" I asked. "Your boat doesn't smell," she announced. At the time, it struck me as a very strange thing to say, so I asked Nathan why she would say that. He said, "Because we have freshwater toilets." I eventually came to learn that most boats have saltwater toilets. And for good reason, because fresh water is precious and expensive. And unfortunately, saltwater toilets smell like decaying sea creatures. The reason for this is that they are filled with decaying sea creatures. On our second boat, the SV Dawn Treader, we had saltwater toilets. No matter how many times we flushed them, they stunk. 2 of the toilets were not too bad, but the third one, the aft port side head to be exact, smelled bad enough that the whole cabin smelled. At various times, that cabin was either the nanny's room or the guest room. Not quite the welcome I had in mind for our guests. We tried everything imaginable to get the smell out, but to no avail. Sadly, I could now appreciate why my friend was surprised by the sweet-smelling Hakuna Matata. But the scoop on poop problems doesn't just lie with the toilets. The whole system is stressful, if you ask me. In the boat's defense, if we had to think about where our sewage went or handle the disposal of it ourselves in a normal house, we would probably think the system stunk pretty badly too. Luckily for most homeowners, they can dig a septic tank when the house is being built, pay a plumber if things start to leak or get clogged, and never have to think about their family's waste again. On a boat, we don't have that luxury. boats have holding tanks where the black water is collected, and you have to carry it around with you until you get to a place where it's okay to get rid of it. I will tell you up front that it is not something I ever got used to, but I did learn more than I ever wanted to know about marine toilet problems during our time on the Dawn Treader. For starters, joker valves are no joke. A joker valve is a little rubber piece inside the pipes that helps prevent the flushed sewage from flowing back into the toilet from the holding tank. Unfortunately, they don't last as long as the rest of the system does, I imagine because of the salt water, and eventually they start allowing sewage to flow back in the wrong direction unless they're replaced. Replacing joker valves involves disassembling parts of the toilet and is probably the reason we aren't living on that boat anymore. When your physician engineer husband finds himself up to his elbows in raw sewage at least once a month on the few days he's home from his clinical and corporate jobs, that doesn't bode well for the longevity of your live aboard adventure. Nathan wasn't the only one who spent way too much time and energy worrying about waste. Generally, the system for collecting sewage on a boat involves toilets and macerators, which liquefy the waste and then send that into holding tanks until it can be disposed of properly. Before living on a boat, I didn't know what proper waste disposal meant, and I was a bit horrified to learn the truth. When you are in U.S. waters, how you handle the sewage on your boat is regulated jointly by the Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA, and the U.S. Coast Guard. The law, according to Wikipedia at least, is as follows. Section 312 of the CWA, Clean Water Act, prohibits the dumping of untreated or inadequately treated sewage from vessels into the navigable waters of the United States, defined as within 3 miles, 4.8 kilometers of shore. In other words, you can't dump your sewage in the water unless you are 3 miles offshore, which means you can dump your sewage in the ocean if you are far enough out. Not something I ever thought about when I was dreaming of sailing to tropical islands. The first time Nathan explained this to me, I was shocked. So we just dump poop in the ocean, the same ocean we swim in. Back then, I thought this was quite disturbing. I imagined our kids swimming in sewage. But ever the engineer, Nathan helped me to understand about the principle of dilution. Dilution is the solution is a mantra I have heard many times from other boaters when discussing waste management in the years since. The idea being that if you have enough water, you can dilute the waste to a point that is no longer gross and poses no threat to anyone. I now know there are plenty of people who disagree with this, especially if you're talking about large cruise ships or chemical manufacturing plants. But this puts my mind at ease a bit. This put my mind at ease a bit since the ocean is certainly enough water to dilute the contents of our holding tanks at least. We would either get a pump out at a marina, a process where the deckhand would bring a machine with hoses onto your boat to suck out the sewage, or wait until we were more than 3 miles offshore before dumping our tanks, so waste disposal wasn't a major problem, except for that one time. It happened when the kids and I were alone at anchor in Elizabeth Harbor near Georgetown, Exuma, Bahamas. Nathan had an extended trip back to the U.S. for work, and a number of storm systems prevented our usual offshore passages on the way to Georgetown. Instead of sailing in the Atlantic Ocean outside the islands to get there, we picked our way along the shallower inside route and tucked into protected anchorages along the way. This not only meant it took a lot longer to get to Georgetown, but it also meant that we could not dump our tanks along the way before we arrived to the anchorage. Still, we thought we would have time to walk the dog, the hilarious term cruisers use for taking your boat out to sea to dump your tanks, before Nathan's flight out of Georgetown. Then another storm system rolled in and we never had the chance. He left, reminding me to call for the pump out boat to empty our tanks. At first, it wasn't an urgent situation since we had 3 toilets and 3 holding tanks. So I spent the first few days listening to the cruiser's net, waiting for the announcement about when the pump out boat would be making its way through the harbor. After a few days with no announcements, I decided to send out a local knowledge inquiry on the VHF channel 68. It went something like this. This is Don Treader with a general inquiry for the harbor. Random cruiser responding. Go ahead, Don Treader. Yes, I was wondering when the pump out boat comes through the harbor. Awkward pause. Don Treader, can we go to 6-9? 6-9. After we switched to channel 6-9, the caller responded, Don Treader, I am afraid I have some bad news for you. There is no pump out boat here in the harbor. This couldn't be right. How is that possible? I said. I saw a pump out boat mentioned in one of the cruiser's guides for Georgetown. Well, there was one, but it sank during a recent hurricane. Oh, so what do all these boats do with their waste? They head out the cut to walk the dog. What I was thinking is, I can't do that. My husband is the only captain and he's out of town. But instead I said, okay, we'll do that. Thanks. Not only did I not want to announce to the harbor that I was home alone without my husband, even with a German Shepherd on board, but I didn't want to draw any further attention, fearing I might soon be forced to become one of those awful boats who let sewage out into an anchorage when their tanks overflow. Some of our friends, Jen and Rich Riley of the SV Allegro, had a similar boat to ours, a Lagoon 440, and had heard about our dilemma. They kindly offered to help me drive the boat out to sea to dump the tanks and then get us back to our anchorage safely. I thought it was a great idea, but Nathan wasn't keen on someone else driving the boat while he was out of the country, and he didn't think our insurance would allow that anyway. So the Don Treader stayed put, and I spent the next week sweating it out, watching the 3 holding tanks get closer and closer to full. We returned to employing the if it's yellow, let it mellow, if it's brown, flush it down method to reduce the number of flushes. Not a system that is very pleasant on a boat, believe me. Gratefully, Nathan returned before they overflowed, and we were able to head out to sea to empty the tanks. We may have averted a disaster, but that experience left me feeling very helpless, vulnerable, and dependent. Feelings that, just like marine toilets, can really stink in the close quarters of a boat. And that is chapter 12, Marine Toilets, Losing Sight of the Shore, How to Live on a Boat Without Killing Your Family. I hope you enjoyed that. I see I do have some people here with me live. So hello, thank you so much. I hope you're enjoying these chapter readings. It's super fun for me, and it's really forcing me to kind of reread the book. When you write a book, then you publish it and then you never want to look at it again. So it's been really fun for me to reread this to you. I hope you're enjoying it. And as I said in the beginning of this video, it looks like we might have another boat in our future. Knock wood. So I will continue to share that here on these channels. So please, if you're not already subscribed, I hope you will do that. And if you like these live streams, please share them with a friend. All right, that's it for now. I'm Rosa Román, and I hope you have a great day. Bye.